WLTX breaking news now.
Thank you also for joining us here on WLTX Plus. I'm Christy Calcagno. Right now, community and civil leaders are set to hold a news conference any second to respond to the verdict in the Rick Chow trial and the death of 14-year-old Cyrus-Carmack Belton. The group says while it respects the jury's decision, it does have concerns about what the verdict means for racial justice, self-defense claims, and equal treatment under the law. Let's go ahead and take you right now to New Laurel Street Baptist Church on Fairfield Road. News conference just getting underway.
We'll have host pastor, Reverend Damian Brown. We'll have the president of the Columbia branch of the NAACP, Sister Ovita Glover. And then we shall hear from the attorney for the family, Brother Cyrus Belton. And we will then open ourselves up to receive your questions. We're grateful to the media for coming on short response. We had much to do to prepare to be here, and we're here now. So I want to present our statement to you, and then ask Reverend Brown, then President Glover, and then finally Attorney Rutherford. Then we'll receive your questions. The Religious Affairs Department of the National Action Network is deeply troubled by the not guilty verdict in the killing of young brother Cyrus-Carmack Belton. This past Monday, June 1, a jury in South Carolina here in Richland County came back and found the killer of Brother Cyrus not guilty. While we respect the roles of juries in our justice system, respect for the process does not require us to be silent in the face of these troubling questions. The verdict leaves many people throughout America and South Carolina asking whether justice is truly blind, or whether race continues to influence how lives are valued in America. And now claims of fear, danger, and self-defense are interpreted often to justify the execution of black people. At the heart of this case is a question that cannot be ignored. If the races were reversed, if the shooter and his son had been black and the teenager white, would the outcome have been the same? If you've been in America for a while, you can answer for yourself. The question is not an attack on the jurors. It is a challenge to all of us to set an example, to examine the unequal assumptions that have too often shaped American criminal justice system's work. History teaches us that black people have been frequently viewed as threats even when they were unarmed, feared when they were innocent, and judged differently than others in similar circumstances. The death of Cyrus Belton demands that we ask another painful question. Did his life matter less because of the color of his skin? For generations, families have watched as the deaths of black citizens were explained away, justified, or even excused under standards that seem unavailable to others. Whether intentional or not, the verdicts such as this one open a deep public skepticism and erodes confidence that justice is administered equally. The National Action Network, through its Department of Religious Affairs, representing Reverend Sharpton, stands with the Belton family and all those who believe that every human life possesses equal dignity and worth. We pray for comfort for those who grieve, but we also renew our commitment to pursuing justice in a system that values every life equally, regardless of race. The question before South Carolina is larger than a single verdict. It is whether we are willing to confront the reality that justice must not only be done, it must be seen as fair, equal, and worthy of public trust. As a 50-year veteran of the social justice work, 40 years in organized civil rights work, when I heard about Brother Carmack Belton and then what happened at the trial, I could not help but think of the roll call of young black people, especially our males, going all the way back to Emmett Till, Trayvon, Tyreek, and the list goes on. In every case, their death was justified by factors that had to include their race. So all these years later, in Columbia, South Carolina, we're still confronting the same issue. The time has come, not just to examine how we got here, but make sure we do not do this again. We'll now hear from Reverend Brown, our host for today, and after him, we'll hear from Ovita Glover, president of the Columbia branch, but also a trailblazer. Because of her, if you go to the public school in South Carolina with somebody of another race, you owe it to Ovita Glover and 8 more black students in Charleston, South Carolina in 1963. And after that, we'll hear from Attorney Todd Rutherford, who's done a yeoman's work in representing the family. And then we'll answer your questions. Reverend Brown.
Thank you, Pastor Rivers. As the standing in for Tiffany James, who is the president of the local National Action Network branch, and I also serve on the executive committee of the Columbia branch NAACP. And my most important work is here as the pastor of this church, the New Laurel Street Missionary Baptist Church. I would like to share our sentiments with the family to let them know that we are petitioning heaven on their behalf and can only imagine the immense grief and sorrow that they have been feeling for the last 3 years. But we also share in the disappointment and disdain of the verdict that was rendered in this trial. Our justice system has taken its course, but we have questions on whether justice was really served. Because today we question that blindfold that Lady Justice is supposed to wear. We question that blindfold because for too long, justice has evaded people of color. We question that blindfold today because for too long, it seems like black lives don't really matter. We question that blindfold because it seems like a bottle of water is more valuable than a black life. It has been reported that the makeup of the jury included seven African Americans, and that the guilty verdict was a unanimous decision. And one could surely make the argument today that because of the composition of the jury, that this is not a racial issue, but I beg to differ. And I beg to differ because this verdict is emblematic of a larger problem that has been embedded in the psyche of people of color since we arrived on these shores. For hundreds of years, we have been forcibly subjugated to the idea that black life has little or no value. And that idea has caused immense damage to our community and an self-imposed destruction. The psychological damage that idea has had of black life not being valuable is the reason that Harriet Tubman had to leave some slaves behind. That psychological damage is the reason why Denmark Vesey's slave rebellion was stopped in its tracks. And that psychological damage has reared its head again in 2026 in the verdict that we received the other day. There is a Latin term called the imago Dei, which simply means that all of us bear the image of God. And if it is true that we all bear the image of God, then that means that all people, including people of color, are worth love, dignity, and respect because we bear the image of God. Even if we have the worst intentions, we are still worth more than a few bottles of water because we bear the image of God. Even at our worst, we are still worth something. We are still valuable, and a bullet in the back should not end our lives. And so as we move forward with this verdict, we will not allow the life of young brother Cyrus to be in vain. But this verdict, this day, this moment will serve as a catalyst of change and a reminder that all life, especially black life, deserves justice, deserves love, deserves respect, deserves dignity, and has value. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Sister Glover.
Good morning. I stand before you today as a God-fearing human being, a citizen of Richland County, Columbia, South Carolina, and a voice that needs to be heard for you. I am here to tell you we are done dying, and it ain't over yet. A young man is dead. Cyrus Belton is dead, and his family, his loved ones, and this community are grieving. As a childless mother with an understanding and caring heart, I stand deep in empathy with the Belton family. We stand deep. No verdict can ever fill the void left by the loss of a child. The not guilty verdict may have closed a courtroom door, but it has not closed the wound in the community. Many are still asking hard questions, as mentioned. If Cyrus had been a young black man, white man, would he have been chased, pursued, and killed over an alleged bottle of water? Those questions deserve to be heard and dismissed. Where was the humanity? Where was the compassion? Where was the recognition that this was somebody's child? Cyrus's life mattered. His dream mattered. His future mattered. And his life should have carried the same weight, the same value of the man who pulled the trigger, his son. And as any other child in Richland County, Columbia, South Carolina, period. The value of a black life is not determined by circumstances, geography, or perception. It is God-given. It is equal. It is sacred. We must be honest. This pain is not isolated to one case. Across generations, as mentioned, families have heard the words, I feared for my life. And too often, those words have left communities with more grief than answers. Each of those losses represents a family changed forever. Each of those names represents a story unfinished. This is about more than one verdict. To the Belton family, Columbia and Richland County, continue to lift you in prayers. We mourn for you. We stand with you. We honor Cyrus-Carmack Belton. To this community, do not lose your voice. Continue to educate, engage, empower, and Lord knows, go to vote and stay prayerful. Remain prayerful, remain purposeful, remain powerful as we are. Because we ain't scared no more. We ain't scared, I said. We are human, and it is ours to do. Today, I leave you with this truth. We are somebody. Our lives have value. We deserve justice. We deserve dignity. Black lives matter. As I said, I am here to tell you, we are done dying. Thank you.
Let us now hear from Attorney Todd Rutherford. Let's give him a hand clap of encouragement.
Thank you, Reverend Rivers, and I clearly don't deserve that because I stand here today at a loss for words of how something like this can happen in a county that I've lived in my entire life. As a 30-year veteran of the criminal justice system, I've never seen anything like it. I stand here with Cyrus's mother to my right, whom I told over the years, it's going to be okay. This can't happen. No, he cannot get away with chasing a child 130 yards and shooting him in the back. No, ma'am, it's not going to happen. He cannot get away with it. And I guess in my calculus, I forgot to include the fact that he was a black child. The diminution of value of black life has got to stop. And it doesn't matter at whose hands. It started off at Mr. Chow's hands and it ended with that jury's hands. But it doesn't matter. Our children have value. Our children have worth. Your child had worth. I stand here today because we have got to impose even those values on ourselves. That our children are not thugs. That our children, even in trying to protect themselves, end up in situations where they get a bullet in their back and a jury says that that is okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not. Not okay. It is not. We cannot believe for one more second that our children, because of the color of their skin, are worth less than those that don't look like us. I challenge those who say, well, that's what the jury said. There were blacks on the jury. There was a black prosecutor. And so it is what it is. I challenge you to show me in this country where that has happened and the assailants look like us and the victim did not. That's right. That's right. I get frequent phone calls about, well, the prosecution, they should have asked for voluntary manslaughter. Well, what they don't realize, even in asking that question, you're suggesting to me that a 14-year-old with a bullet in his back, his value cannot reach the level of murder? They should have started off with less than murder? No more. No. This was nothing less than a bullet in the back and murder, no different than it would have been on a white store owner being chased by black children, on a Chinese kid running out of a store being chased by two black kids. This was exactly what the prosecution said it was, and I'm sorry that the jury didn't agree, but the jury was wrong. And while we have to respect what the jury said because we don't have a choice, they were wrong. And those that looked at it and said, well, how is there malice? Because he was shot in the back after running for his life. And if you listen to the witnesses, they said when he came out of the store, he had nothing but fear in his eyes. And he was running so fast, he lost his shoe. And he kept on running. And what did Mrs. Chow do? She went and got the shoe. They said, well, he had no money when he found him. Do you think that people would pick up somebody else's shoe, wouldn't pick up the cash? Have you not heard of Cash App? Did he need cash in his pocket in order to pay for the water bottles that he did not steal, that he didn't pick up, that he didn't leave the store with? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a simple case of someone armed, running with their adult son as they chased a 14-year-old child over a football field's length and shot him in the back. This was what the family saw, what the community saw, what the whole world now sees. This was a murder, and it is gone without the ability to hold someone accountable. I'm going to try my best to hold them accountable on the civil level. We have filed a lawsuit, and we plan on following suit with that. Thank you so much.
We are immensely proud and moved that his mother has decided to come forward to join us this morning. And I say to her what I say to you. Sadly, this has happened all too often. I've stood with Eric Garner's mother. George Floyd's brother was at our church. We've talked to Trayvon's family. And Ahmaud Arbery's mother came to Charity to share the deep pain. The power of the moment of the mother being here should not be lost on us. In my mind, I believe Cyrus was killed because he was black. And black children going into convenience stores and coming out are not perceived or received the same as white children. I am convicted and convinced that if Cyrus had been white, he would not have had to run 130 yards, would not have been pursued for 130 yards, and would not have been shot in the back. But that does not bring him back. Our goal this morning is to make sure that it never happens again. Because as long as black lives do not matter, especially our boys, every black boy is in danger in America. Because all you have to do one day is decide, I'm afraid of him. I think he did something. And the license to chase me down and kill me has to be revoked. No longer can somebody get away with, well, he was black, and I thought he was guilty. Let Cyrus be the last one. And we plan to hold this system accountable to make sure he is. We'll now receive any of your questions.
What does this case, what's precedent has it set, and what do you think it tells other black and brown children here in the state of South Carolina?
I'm going to ask Attorney Rutherford to respond to the first part of that. Let me answer as a father and a grandfather of black boys. What it says that even in 2026, they can kill you like they did in 1955 and get away with it. Even in 2026, with all the promises made about everybody being treated equal, they can still kill you the way they killed those people in Mother Emanuel. And remember this, Dylan Roof got caught in North Carolina, and the police officer walked up to the car, and Dylan Roof had the gun sitting on the seat next to him. And when the police officer saw that he was white, he put his own gun up and called him son. And they bought him a hamburger. Took him to Burger King. Black folk understand what that means. That Dylan Roof was a murderer, a terrorist and a killer, and he was treated like a part of the family. But for Cyrus, he was family, but he was treated like a terrorist. That must stop. And making you aware will raise the level of consciousness and help protect our boys and our children. Anyone else?
Go into the emotion, the shock, all now on the streets with protesters just voicing their concern as well. Can you talk about the other action? I know there's going to be a civil suit, but other action you all plan to take to make sure to fight for justice?
I'll let Attorney Rutherford answer the second part of that. We are here because the church, in particular the black church, as a haven for us and a sign that all of us are made in the image of God. We can't speak about what's going to happen next. Unlike other groups and organizations, we consult with the family represented through their counsel. I just happen to know Todd Rutherford since he was a boy. I mean, I really knew him before he was anything. As state director of the NAACP, I work with his wife, his mother, very closely. But he's also the eyes and the ears of our legal community that is saying to us now, it shouldn't have happened. But let me take a right turn on this. I went there in 23 when it happened. And what I could not get over is the distance from the store to where he died. Along that way, somebody decided they have to chase him that far. But he decided he had to run that far, trying to live. And they shot him anyway. What provoked Chow to chase this boy 130 yards and still shoot him? And what made Cyrus run was fear for his life. Because as a black child, he knew what might happen. And unfortunately, it did. So for us in the civil rights community, we will continue to cry out, protest, and raise this issue. But for the second part of that, I'm going to ask Attorney Rutherford to speak, not just about the lawsuit, about what he thinks ought to be done as we continue to lift up the worth of the life of Cyrus.
So to your question as to the precedent, this is not a precedent. We had a list of names of children that we have seen this happen to. This is not the first, but what we were asking is that it be the last, that it be the antecedent, because we cannot continue to raise children who are targets simply because of the color of their skin. As we get into what the jury said, and we talk about malice and what people thought about, and I'm sorry, this may get into a little bit of the details, but a 58-year-old man armed with a .45 chasing a kid over a football field, according to his lawyer, had the presence of mind to, after running that far, say, stop, drop your gun. I'm 55, and if I run over a football field, I need oxygen. NFL football players that run that far need oxygen. College football players that run that far need oxygen. They don't have that ability, and they're not running with a gun. Why did Cyrus think he needed to run that far? Why did he have a gun? The answer is where his body lay. That continued to come up. Why does a 14-year-old black child need a gun? Can we answer that while we look at his dead body, shot there by someone that chased him over 130 yards, even though he committed no crime? Is the answer not that obvious why he needed a gun? Until our society, until our community believes that black lives matter, that they matter as much as the general society, we will continue to have these problems. The answer, the future, is on education. It is on our groups not giving up and believing that we have to speak out even though the jury said what they said. The jury was wrong. We will stand on that, and we'll keep fighting.
Can you just real quick restate, you said it has officially been filed a civil lawsuit?
We've officially filed a civil lawsuit. It was put on hold while the criminal trial proceeded. Now that the criminal trial is over, we plan on proceeding with the civil lawsuit.
One of the things that got me about that question, why did Cyrus not have the right to defend himself with the gun he had? for someone who was obviously threatening his life, who would chase him 130 yards, had a gun in his hand, what would have happened if Cyrus had turned around and shot him? Now, if he was white, he'd be treated like the Attorney General treated the young fella from Milwaukee or Minneapolis who shot into that crowd and was brought to South Carolina as a hero.
That's right.
But if Cyrus had defended himself and shot Mr. Chow, Cyrus would be committed and convicted of murder, never to be seen again. That means that even when we are right, our skin color makes us wrong. That's what we're trying to stop. I should not have to stand again anywhere about a 14-year-old black child being shot to death because their skin color sentenced them to death. That needs to end, and we're working hard to end it now. We're doing this to raise awareness that you will, through making this available to the community, answer the hard question. I want everybody who sees it to ask yourself the hard question. If Cyrus was my child,
There you go.
and he was white, and a black man shot him in the back after chasing him 100 yards, would the black man be found guilty or let go? You know the answer. But we need everyone to understand how this mother feels. She should not be standing here for this. She should not have to answer these hard questions. But no matter what we do, we can't turn that back. But what we can do is go forward and make sure that it does not happen to another innocent child because they were birthed, kissed by nature's son with the beauty of being black. Should not be a sentence to death. Any other questions?
The community looking to take action and support the family. What are next steps for them?
The next step is obviously they have a GoFundMe account, and the family, and she can give, you can tell me, they're also collecting money. They're going to redo the memorial tonight because they had to take it down for the trial. But it's also just, again, the education to lift ourselves up and understand that just because we're black, we're not second-class citizens, that our children don't deserve to die. It's to tell people that, listen, this was wrong, this should not have happened, and it can't happen again.
Any other questions?
Mom taking questions?
I don't think so.
No.
No. But while we are here, including media, I think we need to show our love and respect for this mother, what she's going through, to still come out and support the work we're trying to do for her son and for herself. So can we give her a rousing ovation for having the courage to come stand in the most painful hour of her life? From the National Action Network, we'll be talking to Reverend Sharpton when we're done today, and we will be determining, along with Brother Rutherford and the family, how we move forward. I'd like very much for him to be able to speak to the mother, and we'll try to facilitate that. But the media can help us by checking yourself. The way Cyrus's death was covered and the way a white child's death would be covered, in my mind, having all these years of experience, is distinctly different. So I'm challenging you to stop believing when liars lie about our children. Check them and expose them. Emmett Till's killers believed a white woman named Carolyn who said he did it. And what did he do? Whistle at the white woman. All a lie. But the Mississippi media covered it on behalf of the killers. What we need you to do is protect the innocent. tell the truth. And when they're lying, you do it for everybody else. Every time, I've not lied since I was born in front of the camera. But if I lied, the first thing y'all would do is check me for lying. I actually do the same thing with these liars, racist dogs who kill people.
That's right. That's right.
Check them hard. That stuff didn't make sense. I didn't know he could run 130 yards, frankly. The chaser. So we've covered it. We thank you for coming.
Reverend Nelson, just want to acknowledge Cyrus's grandmother.
Let's acknowledge the grandmother.
Cyrus ran 130 yards because of the fact that child had a long history, of abusing young children in this store for years.
Yes.
Right.
For years. The question to the community is, why didn't none of that stuff track record came up in the court? And in addition to that, for years, drop kicking young girls, violence against young girls, young boys, and Cyrus knew that because he's been going in that store too. So the question is, why haven't that came up in the court? Let me correct you. It wasn't just Mr. Chow doing that. The entire family did that. They treated African Americans like trash every time they walked in there. What the prosecution did was show the wall of shame repeatedly as they talked to witnesses. What would have gotten a mistrial, what would have gotten them reversed had they gotten a conviction would be to talk about prior bad acts. That in South Carolina is not allowed. It had to be about what happened then. Oh, absolutely. Listen, I've only been doing it 30 years. I can only tell you that prior bad acts in a murder trial will get it overturned quicker than almost anything else. It needs to be about that, and we can certainly talk about this offline. I'm telling you that as a former prosecutor and as a lawyer for 30 years, absolutely you could not bring that up. Yeah, but it is the law.
But I'll tell you what can happen. Between the National Action Network, the NAACP, and other civil rights organizations, if we received a complaint, then we could have shut him down a long time ago. And when I got here, what I was told, he had a reputation and a record. So I asked the question of the black community. How can somebody has a reputation and a record of abusing your children and you stay in business in your community? Somebody should have checked that, and they may have tried. And I'm glad Todd said what he said because I had the same thinking, but I only passed by law school. I never went to one. And so I trust what he said. But I want to raise this concern. And we get this a lot from folk who have stores in our community. Being disrespectful, not regarding us. But some of that is on us. They should be convicted to treat us equally or go somewhere else. You can't stay on Rutledge Avenue where I grew up and curse black children. That wasn't gonna happen. Not on my block. But if he was doing that, and I heard he was, he should have been checked a long time ago. But there are folk like him now doing the same thing. If you know who they are, call the National Action Network, because Action is our middle name. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Thank you for being here one more time for this mother and this grandmother. I want you to know from the bottom of our heart and on behalf of Reverend Sharpton and the Nan family and all of us assembled, we're not with you just today. However long it takes, we'll be with you. And thank you, Attorney Russell. Thank you, Reverend Brown. Thank you, Sister Glover. And thank you all.
Well, you just heard from community church leaders all reacting to the verdict in the death of Cyrus-Carmack Belton. Let's go ahead and give you a bit of a recap of what we heard in that press conference today. Now, Reverend Nelson Rivers III, first what he did was he read a statement. It was also provided to us right before this press conference. Here's a quick summary of that. It read that the group says the decision has prompted concern and renewed discussion about race, fairness, as well as public trust in the justice system. In that statement, again, that we received as well, It said the organization says the verdict has led many people here in South Carolina and, quote, beyond to question whether justice is applied equally in cases involving race as well as self-defense claims. The statement also went on to say that this case was raising broader concerns about how Black victims are perceived and how similar incidents are judged. And then it was all from the National Action Network saying that they stand with the Belton family and they are calling for a justice system that is fair, equal, and worthy of public confidence. After that statement was read, we then went on over to Reverend Damian Brown. He started off by sending prayers to the entire family. He also shared in what he's saying the disappointment in the justice system, saying that it's taken its course, but was justice really served in that verdict? He also says that justice has evaded people of color, saying that do Black lives really matter, saying that a bottle of water is more important than a Black life. He also went on to talk about the jury and how there were 7 Black members that made up the jury. He also went on to say, quote, all of us bear the image of God. If that is true, that means that all people, including those of color, are worth, going on to say, quote, love, dignity, and respect. Even with the worst intention, we are still worth more than bottles of water. And even at our worst, a bullet should not end our life. He also went on to say that he will not allow the life of young Cyrus to be in vain. Verdict is served as a catalyst of change and a reminder that all life deserves justice, love, respect, and dignity, and also has value. We then went over to Miss Ovetta Glover, saying this was the big thing that she started with and also ended with in her speech. She's saying, quote, we are done dying and it is not over yet. That's what she started with. And again, that's what she ended with. She also went on to say that a young man is dead and loved ones in the community are grieving, saying that no verdict can fill the void that the family and the community are going through. She also went on to say, quote, they may have closed a courtroom door, but not the wound in this community. Also saying that if Cyrus was a young white man, would he have been chased and killed over a bottle of water? She also asked, quote, where was the humanity and compassion and recognition that this was somebody's child? Going on to say that the value of the Black life is not determined by perception. It is God-given, equal, and sacred. Also saying that she is supporting and lifting in prayers as they mourn and stand and they honor Cyrus. She also reaching out to the community, saying in a statement to the community, saying to continue to educate, stay prayerful, purposeful, and powerful. Again, she also ending saying that we are not done dying. We aren't sacred no more. We are human. It is ours to do. We are somebody, that our lives have value, and that we deserve justice, dignity, and Black lives do matter. Again, ending, we are done dying. Todd Rutherford then taking the podium there, very emotional as well, or very, very stern in what he was saying that he's never seen anything like this there in the courtroom. And he also had Cyrus's mother standing behind him during this at the press conference there. Starting off, it started with Mr. Chow's hands and ended with the jury's hands, and saying, looking over to Cyrus's mother, saying that your child has worth. He also says imposing on values on ourselves and our children are not thugs. He also went on to say that we cannot continue that our children, because of the color of their skin, than those who do not look like us. He also says he is challenging people to show him the prosecution should have done involuntary manslaughter. That was a lot of the questions that we've been getting. But he argued that and said that his value did not reach the value of murder. No, this was nothing less than murder, especially if race was reversed. That was something that he was mentioning there. He also asked, how was there malice? Well, he said when he came in through the doors, he said, according to the witnesses there, that Cyrus had fears in his eyes and he kept running, even losing his shoe. No money when he found him. Well, he asked about the questions about whether he had Cash App on those phones, and also ultimately leading up to that, he didn't steal anything. He now did mention that they still did file that civil lawsuit. This was also, that was first filed, if you remember, back in 2023, 2024. I think in August, we believe, it was the one that was first filed in the wrongful death lawsuit against Chow and other defendants. Again, that also had to be stayed and put until the result of the criminal trial. But now the criminal trial is done. Todd Rutherford did mention that that's where they're going to continue and putting that back up in there. He also mentioned, according to some questions that they got from people out there, saying that prior bad acts cannot be brought up during a murder trial, as it could lead to a possible mistrial. So he was just answering questions about that. Also, how there was a memorial there for Cyrus, and it looks like he mentioned that they're going to be redoing that memorial. Ending back with that press conference over with Reverend Rivers talking about how Cyrus's mother again was standing there. We were giving applause. They were giving applause to not only her but also Cyrus's grandmother. Reverend Rivers also said, quote, "I believe he was killed because he was black. Black children going into convenience stores are not perceived as white children." He also went on to say if Cyrus was white, he would not have to run, pursued 130 yards, and then shot in the back. He also said that the goal today was to make sure that something like this never happens again. As long as black lives do matter, every black boy is in danger in America. That was a quote there from Reverend Rivers there. He also said that he will be holding the system accountable. And he also ended saying that he is going to be speaking with Reverend Al Sharpton to determine with Todd Rutherford and the family on how they want to move forward. And he also ended with asking the media to tell the truth, check up with liars, and going on forward to make sure that this does not happen again. Now, we also heard from the 5th District Solicitor, Brian Gibson, on that not guilty verdict. He did release a statement. Let's go ahead and show that for you there on your screen, saying in part, quote, "The verdict has brought on strong emotions from our local and national communities. While I am disappointed with last night's outcome and continue to believe that Rick Chow's actions were not justifiable, I respect our criminal justice system and the jury's decision." Also, family, friends, and supporters of Cyrus-Carmack Belton will be gathering tonight to honor his memory. There will be a memorial vigil that is scheduled for tonight at 6:30. It'll be at Cyrus's resting place, which is near Park Lane Road and Spring Tree Drive. Organizers say this gathering is a chance for the community to come together in love and remembrance. And they're also accepting donations of solar lights, wind chimes, decorative birds, and bubbles to help create a permanent memorial in his honor. What we will do is we will bring you that full coverage there of that memorial and all the recaps from this press conference that you just heard. All of this is going to be on our website, WLTX.com, and we're going to have much more in the next 10 minutes on News 19 at noon. We thank you all so much for joining us here, and again, we'll have much more updates on our website.